Simon Asquith is a singer-songwriter who started playing in bands from the age of 15. At the height of the grunge era, he moved to Melbourne and would play in various bands for the next 7 years. In the year 2000, he moved to Byron Bay, where he trained in contemporary music. From there, he began touring his self-produced solo albums, playing at various venues and music festivals throughout Australia and Europe. He was on the road for 4.5 years. Thanks for talking to us today, Simon.
It's a pleasure, Rebecca.
So for 4.5 years, you travelled around Australia and Europe playing music in a kind of loop of endless summers. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. I began touring as a solo musician and wanted to work as much as I could. Found that going to Europe in the summer and doing the summers in Australia and then the summers in Europe was a great way to keep working constantly. And really at the time enjoyed what I thought was this great ideal of this endless summer, constantly following the sun, constantly following the festivals, constantly following the party, I guess.
How does it feel in your body travelling to that kind of schedule, playing music to that kind of schedule?
It's funny, you don't know what it's doing to you until you stop. And I guess when I finally stopped after, I think it was 8 or 9 summers back to back, that I'd literally been just living out of a suitcase and carting everything around the world, that I just felt how tired I was. I was just knackered.
Is it possible that the way you approach the music has an impact on how it feels while you're playing it, and then the effect of that playing on the body? Like, is it possible that it could look different?
I mean, yeah, it's absolutely possible. I guess if I look back now if I see footage of myself playing, even the physicality of how I play is in this, or how I was playing, is this constant strain, this constant braced. My body's very hard and very rigid, and it's almost like going into play football. You kind of got to get into this physical state of being to go and do the gig and to be on the tour. So even in that in itself is, just putting so much pressure on your body and your nervous system, your adrenal system, all those things. Even the adrenaline rush of performing on stage, when you amp yourself up to try and get into a space to do it, you've got to come down from that, as opposed to the possibility of maybe just being able to be who you are and not have to go into any sort of state to perform,
Has your approach changed to music now, and how?
I had a moment on my last tour where it was kind of one of those magical performances that everyone talks about and is always looking for, where it was like the Barcelona International Street Music Festival, and that invited me back because I'd had such a good year there last year. And it was like one of those, ideally the perfect night, a still warm night, the stars shining. It's really still, the air was really still, really big crowd. The sound was really good. The percussionist and I were just really in the same zone, as we used to call it. And it was kind of the best gig of my life, everyone was there to come and see me. They all knew the words to my songs and were singing along. That whole thing that musicians build up for. And I was halfway through that and singing a big song and the crowd singing along, and I'm looking around going, this is it. This is the magic you've been looking for. This is the place. And I just felt, I still felt empty. It's like, this isn't going to fill the gap. I just need to do more. So I was right in the middle of that amazing moment, and still I'd been working for that for so long, for so many years, to get to that place. And it didn't fill what I was looking for. So that really kind of just made me go, well, what do I do? Do I keep going this? I'm getting older. My body's not coping very well anymore. I'd stopped drinking and I'd sort of started going to bed early, so I was starting to feel the effects of actually taking care of myself a bit better, which was making it harder and harder to go out and do those things. And I let it go. I just came home, fell in a heap exhausted, and just decided to take a break. I didn't know what that was going to look like, or just take a break and recharge. And then it actually took me about 2 years to feel like starting to play music again, or listen to music again, or wanting to do anything with it. And then as I kind of let go of those ideals of what music had to be, that I had to make a living out of it, that I was only as good as how good I was as a musician, and I started sort of going along to a choir run by a friend of mine, and being in a room full of people where everyone's singing together and connecting, and the sound that's being created isn't about the sound that I'm putting out to the world to get that return from. Where actually it was about all of us creating a sound together just purely for the love and the joy of expressing together. It kind of changed everything for me. And I realized that I started to feel the possibility that music is actually just about that. It's just about coming together, and it's something that we all do. It's not about a performer and a crowd. It's actually about human beings connecting together. And that you need to actually have that place to allow it to be about everyone. It's just something really special that happens in that. And so now I really just enjoy music from that place.
When did you really get to see the music industry for what it was, or was there a moment that you kind of saw through the lifestyle?
There's a few times where I saw friends actually like really make it, you know, become one of the biggest festival touring bands in the world and that kind of thing, and watching them achieving all this success, but then just looking worse and worse and worse for wear, and their lifestyles just getting worse and worse and harder, and them getting more and more exhausted and more tired. That kind of something didn't quite make sense to me, because I've watched these people close to me make it, but still just not have any joy or any real sense of achieving anything. They had to keep going. This drive was still there. That really sort of helped solidify it. And then there was another time when I had a moment where I was staying in a small bed and breakfast in the hinterland of Byron Bay, and got woken up one morning at 3 o'clock in the morning by some guy singing and playing guitar to a couple of people like way down the other end of the thing. And I woke up and went down and very politely asked him to, it's beautiful, I was very nice, would you mind just keeping it down a little bit? And they were very apologetic. And then I found out the next morning from a phone call saying that the person that I'd asked to shut up was actually one of my childhood heroes, and one of the bands that I was really big into in the 90s, and kind of modelled my whole career and what I wanted to be like on. It was him. And we kind of became friends. He had moved to the town and we sort of hung out a few times, and his girlfriend and my girlfriend got on together and we went out for dinner a few times. And then he invited me down to the studio one night, which I'm thinking, this is awesome. This is the man. I'm going to learn all these great studio techniques and he can do everything. And I kind of was there for about an hour and not a lot happened. And the more I spoke to him and the more I was around him, it just kind of didn't feel nice. He was just really, not that he was arrogant, but I just couldn't relate to him as a human being. He was so defined by this thing that who he was, that this aging kind of wannabe rock star was kind of carrying on like the same 19-year-old rock star that I'd seen when I was a teenager. And when the substances came out at sort of 9 o'clock at night to say, right, let's go, and I kind of said, actually, I'm just going to go home and go to bed. It's been really awesome to meet you and thanks for the time in the studio. But he was so shocked that I didn't want to stay and hang out with him and party with him, and almost to the point of being angry. Yeah, and to see him as a human being and see him as the truth of where he's actually living and how he was living, as opposed to the image that we get presented with that is everything that he's supposed to be, the great voice, the great guitar player, all of those things. They're just worlds apart. And it just made me realize that what I was feeling and what I was discovering for myself, it really confirmed it, that it's all just a big lie.
There's got to be something more.
There's got to be something more. There has to be something more to life. And if there's something more to life, then perhaps there's something more to music.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking with us, Simon.
Thank you, Rebecca.